Today I'll be going through percentages. We are starting off with set A, which is finding the percentage of a number. So the first question is 15% of £40. Now there are a few different ways to do this. The first way I'm going to show you is going to be to find 10%. Now to find 10% of anything, you do the number divided by 10, which would be 4. And then we're going to find 5%. Now to find 5%, I take the 10% and divide it by 2. So if 10% was 4 and I divide that by 2, our answer is 2. We then add those together, so 15% would be the 10%, which is 4, plus the 5%, which is 2, giving us a total of 6. Now this is an increase question, so our last step is going to be to take our original number of £40 and add the 15% increase. So 15% is 6, I'm going to add those together, making the new price £46. The second question is 8% of Now to find 8%, you can do your number multiplied by 8% as a decimal. Now there will be a different section on the Google Classroom of how to do percentage decimals and fractions. But if you think of it as 8% is actually 8 over 100, which means that if we want to find out what 8% is as a decimal, we take our 8 and we divide it by 100, which gives us the decimal number of 0.08. Now obviously this would be if you had a calculator, you would do your number multiplied by 0.08, which will give us 960. And again, because this is an increase, we take our original number, add it to our 8%, which gives us a total So this is the sum that you would put into the calculator in order to find 8%. You can use the percentage button, but some calculators don't have that, and sometimes, I find it a little bit confusing to use the percentage button, so if I know the sum I actually need to put in, then I will use that instead. If you do not have a calculator, then the way that I would recommend, try that again, is finding 1% of. Now that would be your number divided by 100, which is you then take this number, which is 120, and multiply that by 8, because we want 8%. Now this would obviously work if you wanted to find 6%, 7%, any number that's not easily kind of found like it was before with 15%. So 120 times 8 is 960, and again we take our original number and add on our 8%. Lovely. So our next question, question number 3. Is 5% of 25,000. So there are a few different methods you could do this with. You could do the calculator sum of doing 0.5, which is 5% as a decimal, and you put that into your calculator. So that will be A. B would be to do what we did before, for example. So we can do 1% is going to be divided by 100, which is times that by 5. And then the final method, and it really does depend on what you're comfortable with, you could do 10% of that. It's going to be that divided by 10. And then divide that by 2. Now, all of these methods will give you the same answer. Again, because this is an increase question, we take our original number on our percentage, which gives us a final total Okay, moving on to set B. So the first question in set B is 20% of 500. Now, obviously we've gone through a couple of methods for this. The way that I would do it, and you can use any of the methods mentioned before, would be to find 10%, which would be 500 divided by equals 50, and then to find 20%, a bit like how if we want to find 5%, we divide it by 2 because 10 divided by 2 is 5. What we've done to the 10 to get to 20 is times it by 2, so we need to take the answer of 10%, which is 50, and times it by 2. Now this is a decrease question, so it's a discount, meaning that you take money off. So we take our original, and we're taking away our percentage, which gives us a new total of 400. Do remember to include the symbols for money. If it is going to be a decimal number, you don't need to include the p, but you will need to be including the money symbol in order to get the correct marks. The second question for set B is 10% of 50. So this time we can do 150 divided by 10 equals 15. Again, because it is a decrease, we do 150, take away 15, 35. Question 3, it's 15% of 200. So we could do 10%, 5%, and then add them together to get the total 15%, or using one of the other methods we used before, of if we want 15% as a decimal, we do 15 divided by 100, which would be 0.15. So we would do 200 times 0.15. And that is normally recommended to do on a calculator. If you're comfortable with doing long multiplication with the decimal, that's fine. But this would normally be for a calculator paper. 30, and then we would do the same thing of taking our original number, taking away the 30 equals 170. Now the other method, if we are doing it without a calculator, is obviously to do 10%, which is 200 divided by 10, which equals 20. We do 5%, which is half of 10%, so 20 divided by 2 equals 10. We then add those together, so we take our 20 plus our 10 equals 30.